All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the introduction to FCIP, the Facility Conservation Improvement Program, which is administered by the Energy Division of the Kansas Corporation Commission. This is a great program, and so we're excited to have all of you join us. We have several hospitals, we have some schools, we have other government facilities, and the my goal, and I'm David Carter with the Kansas Energy Program at Kansas State University. My goal is to hopefully not talk a lot and to get other people who are more involved in energy performance contracts. But most importantly, we have two individuals with organizations that have gone through an FCIP project and an energy performance contract. And so we would rather have you hear more details from them because they're the ones who actually went through it. So we'll just continue the a little bit of logistics. Today's
David, we cannot see your screen.
Okay. Can you see
There we
my
go.
screen now?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to have an overview of the energy performance contracting by Tim Unruh, Executive Director for NAESCO, and we'll go a little bit into that on the next slides. And then we'll do an introduction to the Kansas energy performance contract, known as the Facility Conservation Improvement Program. And that will be done by Rick Pemberton, the KCC Energy Division Director, and myself with the K-State Engineering Extension. We're going to have a couple of panelists, one from the Russell Regional Hospital, Harold Courtois, and Diane Stoddard from the city of Leawood. And those are really exciting. Those are the ones that I'm really looking forward to because, like I said, they're there in their facility. They see the impact that this program has, and hopefully the passion that they have for this program will shine through and convince everybody else to just go ahead and do it. It's a really good thing. We will do some questions and answers, so just be thinking about what you want to know as we go along. So just a few simple logistics. This webinar will be recorded and sent to everybody. We do have several links that are in the slides, and those will be in the presentation for you to do a little bit of sleuthing on your own if you like. Now, this is an introduction only. To do a full energy performance contracting information could take a full day. So it's just intended to share the basics, and then you can contact any of the ESCOs that KCC has with whom they've contracted, or us or KCC, to get additional details. And if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat or wait until the question and answer periods to unmute yourself and just ask your own question. So we have the man when it comes to energy performance contracting. We have Dr. Tim Unruh, who's the Executive Director of the National Association of Energy Services Companies. Prior to this role, Dr. Unruh was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Renewable Power at the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Office of the U.S. Department of Energy. So no small potatoes here. We have the source. And while he was at the Department of Energy, EERE, he directed the Federal Energy Management Program, which is the basis for some of the documents that KCC used to do the investment grade audit agreement and the EPC contract for the state of Kansas. So I will finalize Tim's introduction by saying He has roots here in Kansas. So he obtained his doctorate, his master's, and his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Wichita State University in Wichita, Kansas. So, Dr. Unruh, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and we look forward to what you have to say.
Wonderful introduction. You stole a few of my slides already, telling about who I am, just so the audience knows who's talking to them and that they have any credibility at all. But as mentioned, I am Timothy Unruh, and I'm your presenter today. Just briefly, I'm just going to tell you who I am, tell you what NAESCO, the National Association of Energy Service Companies, is. I'll give an overview of what energy savings performance contracting is, or in Kansas, it's often called EPC, Energy Performance Contracting. We'll talk about stacking funding sources, maximizing value and bundling measures, measurement verification, and some fiduciary safeguards. And then we'll move on to the other portions, learn more about the specifics of the FCIP program from the other presenters, and take some questions. So who am I? I am the executive director of the National Association of Energy Service Companies, and we're based in Washington, D.C. I actually work out of my home in Virginia, but we do maintain an office in Washington, D.C., about 2 blocks from the White House. I lived in Kansas for many years, worked with some great people in ESCO for 12 years in the state of Kansas, doing a lot of projects in Kansas, a lot in Missouri, but we actually did projects all over the country and a couple of international projects. I think some of the people on this call are some of those I used to work with, some great people. I did earn a doctorate in electrical engineering from Wichita State University and grew up in Wichita, Kansas, born in Hutchinson. So I am from Kansas, and I do come back and visit quite a bit with my 4 grandkids in the Kansas City area. So what is the National Association of Energy Service Companies? We're a trade association, means we're a 501c6. Which is a specific nonprofit that's geared for industries to gather together. It allows them to do advocacy, which means that we're trying to find pathways to make business happen. Our industry is very regulated in a sense by the statutes, processes, and programs that various states have, and sometimes they work great and sometimes not. And our role is to work with those programs, much like I'm doing today in this presentation, to help promote the industry, to help solve problems, and help to make business happen so that states, public entities, local governments can use performance contracting to benefit themselves and improve their buildings. Advocacy is our process of working with them to ensure that process works smoothly. We do that in all 50 states. We do that at the federal government level, and sometimes we even have to work in local levels as well. We do a lot of what we call engagement. We get ourselves involved in the energy community, and that is basically to encourage cost-effective solutions to infrastructure improvement, which we think is performance contracting. It's a self-regulating mechanism that provides a payback structured system where the savings pays for the cost. And we'll talk more about the detail of that in a little bit. But the engagement means that we are active and present in those organizations, continually promoting what we do. We do a lot of training. We've had a lot of workshops, webinars, and conferences where people learn about the industry, about the policy, and about the technical side. And then finally, support. We develop solutions to direct problems that arise on projects and issues our memberships encounter. So sometimes our members have an issue with a project. So maybe the funding of a grant is having problems, and we might intervene and try to help with that. Or maybe they need help with a client needs a third party to come talk to them about how the process works. We often have done that. So it's support our members in any way possible. So our NAESCO members, I put a list. These are from the Kansas FCIP list. 9 out of the 10 people on the Kansas FCIP list are members of NAESCO. And in addition, Millig Design Build is a member, on the FCIP list, but they're not a member of NAESCO. So as you can see, the members of NAESCO and the FCIP list are some companies you probably have heard of, and some smaller companies. And performance contract is interesting. We have from some of the smallest companies to some of the largest companies, and they're all able to compete equally with each other. And so selecting the size shouldn't depend upon the size of the company. Selecting your partner shouldn't depend on the size of the company, but more of that relationship. And if you even look at the FCIP program documents, you'll see that they emphasize that you want to carefully select your partner with the relationship in mind of how you deal with the people, because you're forming a relationship that lasts many years. So as you look at the companies, don't be swayed by big names, but be swayed by the team that comes in and talks to you. ESPC overview. ESPC stands for Energy Savings Performance Contract. That's the normal industry. I noticed in the FCIP documents, they often refer to it as an energy performance contract. And sometimes you'll see variations in the acronyms, and I'll try to call those out throughout the presentation when they're a little different than the norm of the industry. But the concept is, on the left, is it's a budget neutral method to finance and implement facility upgrades. We pay for the project. The project has a loan that it's acquired, and that loan is paid off through the savings. And the statute effectively means that the savings has to equal the loan payment, so that it's going to be budget neutral for the entity. The partnership is a single source of accountability. So the ESCO is the one who handles from beginning to end. And so any issues that come up are the ESCO's responsibility to solve. It works out to be a very pleasing relationship between the owner of property of the building and the ESCO, because the ESCO takes full responsibility to make sure everything works in the end without change orders, without issues. They're the ones on the hook for everything. Then there's a guarantee. Once the project is built, there's a guarantee of performance, meaning that it will produce the savings that cover the debt service. So this is a picture I created that talks about how a performance contract works. And if we start over to the left, this Sankey diagram shows that you've got, before the performance contract, you've got a total operational and energy cost in the blue, and you do construction. And prior to construction, you probably had old equipment. You may have had high cost services, maybe maintenance contracts that were cost a lot of money. You may have even had poor indoor environments. Schools, we often run into that, where the airflow isn't sufficient for the schools. You do an investment grade audit, and the investment grade audit is an audit that includes two key things. It has a guaranteed savings, and it has a fixed price that the ESCO will build the project for. And those are unique. Often if you just go have an energy audit done, they don't guarantee the savings, nor will they guarantee the price. The ESCO will guarantee both. Construction happens, and after construction, savings of somewhere maybe 25 to 30%, but it does vary. It could be as low as 10, it could be as high as 60, 70%. It depends upon the building and what the current condition is. That goes into a financing payment and ongoing services. So some portion of that will cover those costs so that you're budget neutral during that performance period. The performance period is 15 to 30 years. In Kansas, you can go up to 30 years for a payback on your project. And so the performance period is the point where the savings are guaranteed, the project is producing savings that covers the overall cost of the debt. After the project is done through the performance period, the owner keeps all the savings after contract completion. But let's face it, if you have a 30-year project, that period afterwards means you're probably ready to do another contract because technology has improved, situations have improved, and you probably have the opportunity to create another project with future savings on top of that as well. So the overall roadmap of how this works, the Kansas FCIP program might have some nuances to this process, but I looked and it looks like the Kansas FCIP program pretty well follows this sequence. So you do some pre-planning before you contact an ESCO. You want to kind of figure out what do you want to accomplish with a project. You want to gather utility bills, usually 36 months of utility bills is what the FCIP program recommends. Figure out who on your team is going to do what. You're going to need various people on your team. You're going to need someone in the facility management. You'll need someone that handles whatever contracting office that you have. Probably somebody in legal and probably someone in leadership. Then you go through a procurement and ESCO selection. So depending upon your process, the FCIP program allows you to just invite ESCOs from the pre-approved list in to do a preliminary energy assessment. From the preliminary energy assessment, you get an idea of what a project might look like. And those are really quick look-throughs that the ESCO does. They're not in detail. They just quickly assess, what do we think we can do with this project so that you have an idea of where it goes and does it match up with those goals you set up in stage one. From that, you meet with the ESCOs, and remember, this is the part where you're picking that team that you work best with. And so it's not about a price competition. It's about a reputation and about how well do I work with this team. You choose your ESCO. Then you go through the investment grade audit. We talked about the detail of that. Guaranteed costs and guaranteed savings. Key things. The investment grade audit will be a full detail about your energy consumption. It will establish a baseline of energy use. talk about the energy conservation measures. It won't necessarily be a 100% design project like a design bid build project, but it will have significant detail enough for you to know what's being installed, the sizes, shapes, and brands of what's going to go into the contract. During that investment grade audit, you work closely with the ESCO to shape what you want the project to look like. You have the ability to have input on what brands have worked well in the past for you, what vendors have worked well in the past with you, and how you'd like that project to look and what things you want in it and what things you don't. Then you go into the ESPC contract and financing. You negotiate the final ESPC contract based on that investment grade audit. You go get financing and funding contracts, and the ESCO is usually not allowed to intervene in that execute financing. They'll help you with the numbers that you need, but you'll go find financing yourself and bring that to the project. Then you go through project construction. This is like standard construction. The ESCO will come in and handle construction. What's not standard about it is you don't get hit with change orders because of mistakes or changes that happen in stages 1 through 4, because the ESCO is the sole responsible person. Go through an acceptance and post-installation verification. This is where you validate that things work. You validate that the savings is there. You do a spot check to make sure savings seems to be working. You get a certificate of final acceptance, and then you go into the performance period, last 7, where you do annual M&V for multiple years. Kansas requires 3 years of M&V for projects. So what is an energy conservation measure? Right from the Kansas statute, they say an energy conservation measure means an energy study, audit, improvement, or equipment which is designed to provide energy and operational cost savings at least equivalent to the amount expended by a participating political subdivision or state agency for such energy study, audit, improvement, and so forth. Can't go longer than 30 years. What that basically says that it needs to have something to do with energy, and you can include operational savings if you can also include energy. So if it has energy, you can add operational savings as well to cover the costs. And sometimes the operational savings can be significant, so you never want to neglect including that in your project. So this is an interesting one. An energy savings performance contract offers you some financial flexibility and allows you to stack funding sources. Now, Kansas allows you to have a capital contribution to the project, but it does not allow you to have like some future avoided costs. You can't say, I'm going to replace a chiller in 15 years, and so let's take that cost now and replace it now, or I'm going to replace it in 3 years and have it now. You can't include that, but you can include other things in projects. There's federal tax incentives. There's utility rebates. There's state and local grants. There's the energy and operational savings you get. And then there can be that capital contribution. And why it's important to stack the funding resources is that you get an opportunity to leverage your savings. When you throw the capital in, that capital has energy savings associated with it, and that energy can compound and cause a project to grow and benefit you and help your building improve further than what it could have if you just did it by itself. So you want to try to combine all your funding mechanisms into the project that you can. Remember, the FCIP program has certain limitations. You'll work with the Kansas State University Extension Office, and they'll help you organize that into what can be allowed and what can't be allowed to make the best project possible. But don't discount the energy service companies. They are really good at helping you to find money through these other places like rebates, grants, and so forth. They'll help you understand the rules, the laws. They've got a structure of support behind them through our organization and their own that will help them bring the best package forward to you such that you can get the most improvement in your building that you possibly can, which is important because getting building funding otherwise is very challenging. So you want to utilize this as much as you possibly can and get all the funding included in projects. So also as part of that maximizing the value is you want to remember that you're going to bundle measures. There is a thought that maybe you have to say every single thing you do has a payback, but in Kansas, you're allowed to bundle the measures such that a fast payback item like lighting shown in the upper picture can help offset the cost of maybe some distributed HVAC units like shown in the bottom picture. And so when you combine those together, the payback meets the Kansas program. Sometimes, for example, if you need large equipment like chillers and boilers, or if you need building envelope things like roofs and windows, those usually by themselves will not pay back. But if you have other things you're doing in your facility that have savings, that savings can help cover the savings of those other items and further help you meet your goals of improving your building the project. So that means you're bundling short payback items with longer payback items. that helps you to get those HVAC upgrades. There's also non-energy benefits that you want to make sure you recognize in the project. In some cases, non-energy benefits can be monetized. You could get money from them. That's like operational savings. So that could be like a contract to maintain, or perhaps you're replacing parts on a regular basis, and those parts can be included. So basically anything that you're spending in your operational budget, so long as you have energy as included as well, you can include those as a non-energy benefit. But there's also some what we call non-monetized non-energy benefits that you need to think about as you put together your project. You can have improved air quality inside buildings, and specifically I talk about test scores, which are talking about schools and teacher retention in schools again. But in all your facilities, if you have better indoor air quality, people tend to be more productive, have less sick days, and perform better. And better air quality is not just one thing. You could have temperature regulation. It could be that the way the sun is shining through the windows, and maybe some window film would stop that. So there's a lot of things that can be done as part of these projects. And that's where having that energy service company as your partner working with you is best, because if you talk about some of these things, the energy service company more than likely has a solution they can include in the project to help out. It's interesting to note, though, in Kansas, the energy conservation measures must have energy savings, but water savings is not considered energy savings. So you can't include water savings in a project. If the water savings saves heating or cooling, for example, hot water, you could include that because it has the energy, but normally water is not considered energy. So watch that as you do your project development. Measurement verification, a pretty standard requirement for all the projects. M&V is the shorthand for it that we always use. It is essential in making sure that the project has that full circle accountability, meaning that the savings produce enough savings to cover the debt service of the contract. It's a robust process that verifies energy, water, and cost savings of a project. It's to make sure that what actually is happening represents what really needs to happen as far as the debt service. And it's interesting because when you look at measurement verification, you're trying to measure what's not there. And that's a challenge. And so the baseline becomes a critical piece to understand what were you doing before, to understand how it changed for what you're doing now. And so sometimes people will say, well, if I use the equipment more, won't that cause the energy used to increase? Well, a properly designed measurement verification plan will account for that. And when you use it more, technically you're saving more because your use is independent of the project. If you need to add a night session, so for example, if your building is going to be used 8 to 5 before you did the project, but afterwards you know it's going to be used from 8 till 10 p.m., that's an increased use of the building, and it will increase energy use, but your savings actually goes up because you have more opportunity to save. So an M&V plan is very critical to make sure you understand how the savings works and how you're really achieving the savings to accomplish your goals. Typically, measurement verification plans use something called an IPMVP, the International Performance and Verification Protocol. And that comes from an organization called EVO. There's various forms of the IPMVP, but there's one that the Department of Energy has called the FCIP IPMVP. But basically, they're all roughly the same, and they have 4 options to determine savings. And you and your ESCO and the Kansas Extension Office will work together to determine which of these options are best for your particular project so you understand what's needed. And again, like I mentioned before, Kansas does require 3 years of M&V, and it does not allow stipulated savings. And stipulated savings are where you just say the savings is X, and because we're so confident we're not going to measure it, we know this is what it is. Typically, some measurement needs to be included on that savings so that it moves it from stipulated to measured. Fiduciary safeguards is my last topic, is owner's representatives. Owner's representatives is a function where a third party comes in and provides assistance to you. Their involvement in the project can range from just very little and short reviews to an in-depth involvement in the project. You decide how you want that involved. The Kansas FCIP program provides this service through the Kansas State Engineering Extension Program. And I think those are some of the people we'll have on this call today doing the presentation. They're the people who will actually be at your site, looking at your project and giving you guidance. But the things that they do is they provide technical expertise on all the aspects of the project. They know how performance contracting works, because we recognize if you're doing a 30-year contract, this is probably the only one you'll ever do at that facility. It's not like you do one every 6 weeks or every 6 months or every 6 years. And so it's expected that you don't necessarily know all the ins and outs. That's where your owner's representative helps you. They'll help you with the selection process. They'll help you negotiate the best value with the ESCO. They'll help protect your interests so that you can feel comfortable with the project moving forward. They'll help with communication. The basic will be there to be your confidant and aid going through the whole process. When with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you and let you carry on with the FCIP introduction.
Okay, hopefully you can see the slide, Ryan.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. That went pretty smoothly. Tim, thank you. I don't know if there's really a need to go on with the rest of the webinar. We will, but you did an excellent job explaining everything. So thank you for that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Kansas Facility Conservation Improvement Program, and that's going to be a combination of Rick Pemberton, who's the KCC Energy Division Director, and myself. So Rick, if you would like to maybe say a few words to the people.
Sure, David. That was great, Tim. I appreciate all that and appreciate your looking into the Kansas program and giving that portion also. Great talk. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for attending. My name is Rick Pemberton. I currently serve as the director of the state's Energy Division, which is currently housed at the Kansas Corporation Commission. As allowed by Kansas statute, the Energy Division provides administrative support to the K-State Engineering Extension for the operation of the FCIP program. The FCIP program has been in existence for over 20 years and has provided qualified state and local government participants access to energy efficiency and budget guaranteed savings. You can find a step-by-step process for the FCIP program, frequently asked questions, a list of the pre-qualified energy service companies with their contact information, and their maximum pricing for audits and projects on the Kansas Corporation Commission's website under the Kansas Energy Office landing page. And with that, David, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're going to go on with who is the Kansas Energy Program. So we're housed within K-State's Engineering Extension Department, and the program was established in 2016 through a partnership with the KCC. And what we do is we provide services in the FCIP, energy education, and small business energy assessments, and helping those small businesses apply for federal grant dollars, such as what they can obtain through the USDA Rural Energy for America program once that gets back up and running. It's currently on hiatus. So there are three of us who provide the FCIP services, myself, Kurt Foley, Ryan Hamill. You can see we have credentials in the energy industry. We have certified energy managers, certified measurement and verification professionals. Kurt is also a certified demand side management manager. And Ryan has a professional engineering credential associated with his name. So Kurt and Ryan are actually the smarter people of the three. So if you need a technical question, definitely ask one of them. I'll muddle along. I can usually get there, but I get there a little bit slower than they do. So this is just a map showing some of the FCIP projects that have been performed in the state of Kansas. That's not to say that there haven't been other energy performance contracts or energy savings performance contracts that have been done by the ESCOs. It's just sometimes they go through the FCIP process and sometimes they do not. So there are many other examples of energy savings performance contracts that the ESCOs have performed in the state of Kansas These are just the ones that went through the FCIP. So just a few terms that Tim mentioned, that Will mentioned. The customer is the publicly owned facility engaged in the FCIP. So the city of Leawood, the Russell Regional Hospital, as examples for today's webinar. I'm not going to read through all these. You've heard ESCO, you've heard EPC, you've heard FCIP. So we'll just skip over those. Tim did a great job talking about the statute that actually implemented the FCIP program back in 2000. And do want you to know that this program is administered by the KCC. The Kansas Energy Program at K-State, we just provide technical assistance. So if there is a conflict with what either the ESCO or the customer deems as an interpretation of the statute and what an eligible project, it's going to be the KCC, Rick Pemberton, that would make the ultimate decision in regard to how to proceed forward. So Tim showed a pretty good slide about this. So we'll just look at this briefly. Before the improvements, you had your energy costs, you had your maintenance costs, and in those maintenance costs, you might have some operational costs as well. After the improvements, boom, you've reduced your energy costs. You have a significant amount of savings, like Tim said, it could be 20 to 30, it could be 10 to 60 or 70%. Just depends on what kind of projects you're including, how many hours a day those projects consumed energy, and what your operations are, both before and after. So you're still going to have some maintenance costs, of course, but that reduced energy that leads to the increased savings is going to be what you're using to pay for the project. So a budget neutral. So again, this does allow government-owned buildings to implement energy efficiency projects without the upfront capital costs. And I guess before I go any further, I will tell you that all of us at basically all of the ESCOs, NAESCO, Tim, myself, Ryan, Kurt, KCC, we all believe in energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is a way to get the same or increased work out of your equipment with less costs. So I don't care whether you're wind, solar, coal, nuclear, oil, natural gas, how you derive your electricity. Energy efficiency cuts across all of those fuel sources, reduces your energy and operational costs, and reduces consumption of natural resources for our nation as a whole. So we really believe in these programs, and it allows you to do a lot of good stuff. So as Tim mentioned, that the Kansas program does require a payback of less than 30 years, and that's going to be equipment specific. So if you have a piece of equipment that the ESCO identifies needs to be replaced, and that piece of equipment has a functional lifespan of only 15 years, the KCC FCIP program does not allow you to go beyond that serviceable life. It has to include only the energy savings through that 15 years if that's the identified lifespan. So here are the entities that can participate in the state of Kansas, any state agencies and political subdivisions. You can see the definition of political subdivisions down in the lower left-hand corner. But these municipalities and counties, healthcare, schools and universities, correctional facilities are all types of organizations that have benefited from the FCIP program previously. So you have lots of common projects that the ESCOs will recommend. Lighting is always going to be a low-hanging fruit, which, as Tim indicated, typically has a shorter payback. And then you can bundle that with some of these other projects that might have more typical longer paybacks to bring those back down within that 30-year payback period. So HVAC and control systems, building envelope improvements. We've had a couple of entities that have installed geothermal, which might have a longer payback. And Tim had mentioned roofing, definitely a long payback on those. But again, if you combine them with some of these other programs, you might be able to combine them and achieve that 30-year payback. So Tim already mentioned that for water, only the associated energy savings can be included. We did have a few years back, we had an entity in the state of Kansas that included replacing their water meters, and we have KCC has since excluded those because they were using the replaced water meters to increase tracking of water leaks and money that they were losing through those leaks, right? So if they didn't know how much water was being lost in the leak, they couldn't charge for that water. So with replacing water meters, they were able to keep track of that water more closely, and they had enhanced revenue. Well, that's not an energy saving, so we can't use that. And then cost of new equipment, which is considered avoided capital costs, that would be included in the EPC, so you can't include that in the cash flow. So here are some FCIP benefits. There's no need to issue separate requests for proposals for each of the separate projects that you would be doing under a normal construction design and build process. It saves time. There's no need to develop the specifications. The ESCO is going to do that. The ESCO is going to write the contracts and hire the outside consultants and engineers. Now, I will say that the ESCOs do a great job at working with the entity. If you have preferred contractors with whom you have worked in the past, they are going to consult with you and say, well, who do you want to use? Who would you rather not use? And that's all part of their responsibility to you. And like Tim said, in developing that relationship between you and them. The construction markup rates are capped, but they can be negotiated downward. So you have, in essence, already identified what the upward cost would be, and then you can work with the ESCO and say, well, we would prefer, X% down and see what they say. And then, of course, the third-party assistance by KCC and K-State. And I will say that we do not intend, nor do we desire to be adversarial in nature. We are just another set of eyes on the investment grade audit or the energy performance contract and the energy conservation measures that are chosen, and in particular on the measurement and verification. So we quite frequently will call the ESCO up and say, hey, we noticed something a little bit off in this calculation. What do you think? Are we reading it wrong? And we really try to work with the ESCOs and the entity in developing solutions and resolutions to things that we might see in there. And for the entities that are on here, sometimes the ESCOs will provide, oh my goodness, upward of a 80-page report with maybe another 100 and so pages of appendices. And you don't have time to go through all of that Well, that's what we do in providing the technical assistance to KCC. We will go through the documents that are handed to the entity by the ESCO, and we'll do just some calculation verifications and provide assistance that way. So again, Tim had a slide very similar to this, and like he said, he had reviewed this. It's very similar to what he had. You're going to reach out to KCC, preliminary energy assessment, followed by an investment grade audit. And then you refine and select projects based on what the paybacks are going to be, what the savings are going to be. You could enter into an energy performance contract. You are not obligated to do so. And then the work begins, and then measurement and verification. So whether the customer lets KCC know that they're interested, or whether the ESCO and the customer have been in conversation, and the ESCO can contact us and let us know, hey, we were talking with this organization and they'd like to know more about FCIP. Either way that happens, we either the KCC staff or KEP can get into contact with the customer and get started on the processes and provide resources. So that again, as Tim said, the ESCO will come over, and we do certainly recommend that if you have a relationship with one ESCO already, certainly go ahead. But if you're new to the FCIP and you want to explore a little bit, ask one or two or three different ESCOs to come over and conduct an initial assessment and give you some indication. Because again, like Tim said, you're looking at developing a relationship with these ESCOs, and so if you can compare and contrast with what one group says over another, that's just going to help you out. So they're going to do a quick assessment, and they'll come up with a list of energy conservation measures, and then you're going to, based on the presentations that are made, then you're going to choose an ESCO to complete a detailed investment grade audit. And there's no further commitment beyond there. If you choose to enter the EPC, the energy performance contract, you can, and the IGA report fee is incorporated into the project costs. If you choose not to enter into the EPC, all you have to do is pay for the investment grade audit. And we have seen where that's happened before. I know K-State had gone through the FCIP process, and they got up through the investment grade audit and chose not to enter into the EPC, and they just paid for the IGA and implemented some projects on their own. And then select and refine program improvements. And the ESCOs are great at working with the governmental entities to decide, okay, what fits with you, what fits with your future plans, and all of that. So again, they're just great. So they're going to work with you to prioritize and refine all the projects. If you choose to enter into the contract, you sign it, and again, like Tim was saying, it could be financial, certainly maintenance, leadership, legal. All of those people are going to be involved in this project, so it's important for you to get them on board and introduce them to the ESCO so that the ESCOs know who the key people are. And always, if you have any questions or concerns, it's just important for you to either contact the ESCO or KCC, right away, or KEP, and we'll contact KCC. And it's, communications is always going to be a very important part of the process. Then the work begins. The ESCO is going to serve as your general contractor. You are going to make monthly payments through the calculated savings. The contract does require to withhold 10% of the cost until completion. And one thing that we certainly want the governmental entities to know is that generally all of the equipment's going to come with equipment warranties. Those are going to begin at the date of substantial completion. There are forms that the ESCO should have you sign saying that, okay, hey, we've installed your HVAC equipment, we've done the commissioning, we've done the tests on it. It is now ready to begin. So the entire project might not be completed. You might have another year on the entire project, but they did the HVAC first because you needed that done right away because your school and classes are going to be starting and you had to have that HVAC. So that HVAC equipment, the warranty on that might start a year earlier than on one of the other projects, which doesn't get completed until later. And then you have the measurement and verification. Tim went into that in some detail, so we're not going to belabor that point. Kansas does require a minimum 3 years. And if the energy and cost savings are not achieved, then the ESCO has to pay the customer the difference and then continue conducting M&V until met or exceeded for 3 consecutive years. And again, this is just, there are lots of nuances to these slides. So if like we said, this is just an introductory webinar, so we can get into details on that in the future. So what does it cost to participate for the preliminary energy assessment? There's no charge, no commitment. If you do the investment grade audit, there is a cost based on the region, facility type, and square footage. And then if the facility and ESCO enter into the EPC, that IGA report fee is just incorporated into the project costs. The project costs are highly specific to the facility and the projects. The maximum construction markups are set by the ESCO and the region, and the financing is the customer's responsibility. There is an FCIP fee based on a percent of the project cost. It is only charged if the EPC is signed. And I will say that in some cases, KCC has waived the FCIP fee, but that's on a case-by-case basis. These are the FCIP regions that are identified in the contract. And here are some example investment grade audit fees. So you can see that they will have, sometimes significant differences between the western part of the state versus the eastern part of the state. And that obviously is based on travel and resources. Some of the ESCOs might have offices throughout the state, some may not. And then this is just an example of some of the maximum construction markups. And this is an example from one of the ESCOs. You can go to the link here and you can see all of the maximum construction markups from all of the ESCOs. And it's, proportionate to, not proportionate, but it differs between the size of the project. This is just a quick example of the FCIP fee, and you can see how they differ both in the total costs and the percentage of the total project cost. So for a $400,000 project, the FCIP fee would be $13,000, and 3.25% of the total project costs. For a $12 million project, the total FCIP fee would be $101,000, but it's only 0.84% of the total project cost. And as Tim showed, here are the 10 pre-qualified ESCOs that contracted with the KCC, and all of their information is at the link below. And as Tim mentioned, 9 of these are also with NAESCO. So with that, I think I went 2 minutes over, but we want you to hear from the people who have actually gone through this. So I'm going to introduce Diane Stoddard with the City of Leawood, and I am going to stop sharing so that she can bring up her slides.
Thank
Welcome,
you,
Diane.
David. Thank you. As David mentioned, I'm Diane Stoddard. I'm the city administrator for the city of Leawood, and we are in the midst of doing an FCIP round of projects at this time. We're in the implementation phase, and I'll be explaining to you all what we did there. But also, previously, I worked as assistant city manager for the city of Lawrence, and during my tenure there, we went through a couple of rounds using the same FCIP process. So I felt like I had a bit of experience with it and have found it to be very helpful for packaging together, bundling projects, if you will, and having a funding mechanism to be able to get those implemented. So I will share my screen here for you. Let's see, are you all seeing a slide there?
We do.
Great. So just a little bit about the process first. I'll start with that. To begin with, what we did is we issued a questionnaire and from the ESCO list that David mentioned, and we selected a partner, ESCO, to work with. And then we worked with the ESCO on a preliminary energy assessment. Our ESCO partner met with the staff. We included a variety of departments in those meetings, and we kind of asked them also to sort of bring their capital improvement program wish list with them, things maybe they haven't been able to get to that were maybe a priority of the department, as well as projects that we knew would deliver an energy savings. Now, for the city of Leawood, we were a little bit behind a lot of cities in terms of implementing some of the energy strategies that are fairly low-hanging fruit, like LED lighting and those kind of things. So we did have quite a bit of those sorts of projects that we knew that we wanted to do, but we also, had a discussion about other kinds of projects that may be a priority. And I remember in Lawrence, one of the things that we had during that phase was we had some lighting of courts that we were looking at, and lighting in courts can be extremely expensive, but we were looking at this process as kind of a funding vehicle to bundle that with a variety of other projects to be able to get that accomplished. After that preliminary energy assessment was completed, then we held a work session with our governing body in order to discuss the program and the preliminary energy assessment results. And I recall that David was involved in that, as well as our ESCO partner. So David was able to talk through the FCIP projects at the state and how that process worked, and what everybody's role would be. And we had some, high-level discussions on this preliminary assessment and the array of projects that we had the ESCO look at and evaluate. And like I said, we really tried to have them look at all different kinds of things on the table. In both times that I have done this in the cities, I found that maybe some departments might be a little bit more engaged than another, and then I recall in Lawrence that after we did the first phase of projects that we had another department that really kind of thought, hey, I really want to engage with this and see what I might be able to do under this program with the second round. So after that work session, we were given the go-ahead by our governing body to have an investment grade audit completed. And as mentioned with that, and I know this is kind of the third time that you all have sort of seen this process slide that's maybe different, little slightly different variations of the same steps. We knew that we were committing to a cost with that. I believe it was $15,000 in our case, and that after that we would get some real data upon which we could decide to move forward with either a contract or decide again that was the end and we were just only going to be responsible for paying the audit costs. So that seemed like that was a useful next step, and our governing body authorized that. And then after the investment grade audit was completed, we held another work session with our governing body to talk about the investment grade audit results and a little bit of what, what a real package would look like then, because we ended up having some projects that were recommended to proceed and other projects that we evaluated that we didn't proceed. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then our next step was actually executing an energy performance contract. And in our case, we had a couple of contracts because we had one that did meet the FCIP parameters and one that didn't, that we wanted to go ahead and proceed with our ESCO on. And then project implementation, and that's again the phase that we're in right now. So we have the ESCO working on actually implementing the various parts of the projects that were authorized. And then, as mentioned, the steps after this will be the verification and measurement phase where the savings will be verified, and then reporting, which I also think is really important to do, to loop back to the governing body about what was actually achieved and also to be able to share that with the public. This is a project summary that shows the costs and paybacks in the case of our specific projects for the city of Leawood. And you can see here that we looked at various projects that did meet the FCIP criteria, and that had to do with the cumulative payback, which in this case was 13.1 year payback. And you can see that each of the individual projects, yes.
Sorry, but your slide is not showing.
Oh, it's not. I'm sorry. Hold on just a second.
Diane, I think we're seeing like not there. If you click on, where you're, there
Oh,
you go.
I'm sorry.
You see it now. Yep.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Okay, very good. I'm seeing a different one that had popped up here for me. Sorry about that. So again, this slide is showing you the various projects. Can you see the detail on this, or should I make it larger?
I can, well, I can't read the small print, but
there we go. I'll make it
okay.
A little bit bigger. And I'm sorry, I had a problem when I pushed the slide button. It's showing that off of the page for you all. So sorry about that. But this is what I was mentioning, that we had a couple of two different project buckets, if you will, because one met the FCIP payback, and you can see that here, and the other group didn't. But we did want to go ahead and proceed with all these projects here on the left. So we had, again, interior lighting retrofits that was changing various building lighting to LEDs. We had exterior lighting retrofits, and then we had a lot of Cobra street lighting. That was a very big dollar amount that we had done several neighborhoods in Leawood. We had a number of neighborhoods and street lighting that still needed to be completed. And as you can see, that does have a really quick payback. And then we looked at weatherization, some HVAC improvements, and also a solar improvement. And we also looked at bundling with our ESCO, again, things that didn't quite meet the payback thresholds required by the FCIP program, but we decided to proceed with these in addition, just because of the ability to bundle all of these. So we had some things like building automation systems that we really hadn't achieved here, and we knew we needed to do that because in order to be able to have the kind of energy savings later, we needed to have building automation, and you can see that that was a really high dollar amount. And then we had some other projects that we decided to go forward with, like a ground source heat pump replacement project that had a big price tag, but we had some eligibility for some tax credits, some energy investment tax credits that were available to us. You can see also that we did evaluate several other projects that we didn't end up recommending proceeding with, but we did want to inform our governing body that, hey, we also looked at these and weren't recommending these. I will mention that one of the things that the ESCO did is really help us, and this was mentioned by a couple of the other presenters. The ESCO really did help us look at opportunities for these tax credit savings, and they identified that our solar project and our ground source heat pump replacement project, we might be able to get around 400,000 or so back from these investment tax credits because of the timing of when we're implementing these projects. And they were also able to put us in contact with a company that could help us do that and sign up the paperwork that's required to get those tax credits. That's not in our wheelhouse, so we hired an expert to do that, is doing that on a contingent fee basis that's very reasonable. The next slide I'll show you is we also wanted to summarize when we presented to our governing body about the annual energy savings and annual operation savings. And of course, this is part of the ESCO guarantee for the savings, which we in total was just under 500,000 per year, and including about 200,000 per year in energy savings. And then you can see that our total project cost that we ended up proceeding with was about $9.1 million. So we estimated that that our savings over 20 years was also just a bit over 9.1 million as well. Our ESCO helped us with calculating what the impact would be in terms of emissions reductions, and I think that information is helpful, particularly for your community that may have an interest in how are we impacting the climate? How can we really engage with sustainability efforts? And this information is helpful. I always ask them to provide to us, give that to us in some real world comparisons. So I like that they provided this and put this into a framework that maybe everybody can understand a little easier, equivalent to removing 505 cars from the road each year, equivalent to conserving a little bit over 200,000 gallons of gasoline each year, etc. And I think that really helps to translate the impact not only to the governing body, but then also to the public at large. They can understand what these impacts are. So just my last slide, I just wanted to focus a little bit here for you on the benefits of what I see the FCIP project bringing. And this has been mentioned, the ability to bundle these projects together that might otherwise have a difficult time achieving funding priority. So I think if you're looking at, LED lights compared to maybe something that has a much more forefront, something that the public can see. It's very difficult for governing bodies to say, let's spend the money on that. And it's also, frankly, difficult for departments to want to propose doing these kind of projects, just because they know that maybe some other things have more of an impact, directly with residents. But this is, again, a vehicle to really get there, I think, with energy savings in a way that makes a lot of sense and is helpful. So the other benefit I see from the city standpoint is that we have contracted project management. So our staff is plenty busy doing all of the different things that they do day to day and maintaining our buildings, et cetera. This really lets somebody else take the role of working day to day with the contractors and making sure that we're getting the best contract price, but then also overseeing the contractors and making sure that the projects are getting done and completed. Then you also have energy and maintenance savings that relate to your community or your organization's sustainability and climate goals. I think that's really helpful. And again, as we do the reporting back to the community, that's part of what we want to emphasize. Also, the ability to look at leveraging, as was mentioned here, grants, or if there are federal tax rebates that might be available. For us, it was the ability to leverage those federal tax rebates for the solar and the ground source heat pump projects that we are in the implementation phase for. And then just bringing that external expertise, both, I would say, well, three-way expertise, I think, in our case. One, of course, from the KCC and the K-State Extension, which is really helpful just to provide an extra set of eyes on everything for us, as well as being able to help be a neutral third party to educate our governing body. And then we were able to obviously leverage the extra expertise of our ESCO partner, as well as leveraging the expertise of the partner that's helping us be able to actually apply for all of these tax credits, which that ground source heat pump project, the documentation for that is really very involved and would be far beyond our ability to have any expertise in that. And so with that, it concludes my presentation, and I'll look forward to any questions at the Q&A session. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Diane. I will say I noticed that Ryan Terry is on the call he's with Navitas, and Navitas is the one who conducted the project for the city of Leywood. So thank you for your work and thank you for being on. So, okay, we are going to transfer over to Harold Courtois with the Russell Regional Hospital. Russell, are you on with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. I'm going to stop sharing. So in case you have, I guess I already have stopped sharing. So if you have any slides or if you just want to talk to us.
Well,
Welcome.
I don't have, yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, I don't have slides because I'm on the road traveling for Conklin Cars today, but definitely wanted to be part of this. We did not do the process that the FCIP process, but we did get some. This was back in 2014. Today, I would probably use that process, not because we needed it, because it's a great way to go and get questions answered. I'm now retired as a hospital CEO and doing the car driving business. So anyway, we got together with 2 or 3 different companies, had them give us bids. We liked the presentation given to us by Energy Solution Professionals with Jeff Flathman, and we chose them. They happened to be the least cost of all 3, and was a very good choice on our part. We are Russell Regional Hospital is part of the county, so we had to go through the county commissioners as well as our own private board. We have 2 boards to deal with. And we did a presentation with the county commissioners and had a public process as well for people to come and listen about what we were going to partake in. As a result of that, I just want to mention the county commissioners are responsible for the buildings and grounds. We were responsible for the operations. It's a very different type of arrangement, but it worked fine for us. So one thing that when I got to Russell Regional Hospital that I noticed is that I took a tour and we went down and looked at the generator. The generator is an in-house generator, extremely old, from way back in the 1940s. As a matter of fact, I saw that generator when I was a child, and my dad was the head of the laboratory as a med tech at Russell Regional Hospital many years ago. Anyway, we wanted to reopen surgery, and we realized we didn't have the generator power, and much more generator power than to operate basically egress lights and heating, cooling, and a few other things. Very outdated generator with components that went with it. So as we did that, we did the investment grade audit, like what we saw. One of the county commissioner was very opposed to the project, stating that it was a scam, and we tried to ensure him that it was not. He had to eat crow when this project was over, which I will tell you about here in a minute. But when we began the project, and I did like the fact that Energy Solution Professionals gave us the opportunity to use local contractors where we needed those. One thing about the entire project is I thought it was very well managed by the ESCO. I thought that they actually captured some things that some may not have looked at. It just depends. We had one set of airflow conduit that was opposing each other. So literally the airflow was working against, and that's why we had some cold spots in our hospital, and that was uncovered during this process. One thing that I did want to mention is that Russell is a 25-bed critical access hospital. It has 2 buildings, a physician office and a hospital, which is now, before I left, we also enlarged, added on a new physician facility in the front of our hospital. So now they have basically 3 buildings to take care of as well. So anyway, with this, some of the things that happened is about an 18-month project, maybe just a little longer. I can't remember, Jeff, but I think it's pretty close to that. The total square feet that we had to work with was 85,000 square feet. Number of buildings were 2. The project cost was $2 million. The annual savings was projected to be $168,000. Well, it ended up being $168,000, about $14,000 a month. Is a great savings, and that's considering everything: cost, weather conditions, etc. And so we had somebody on site. We know that Energy Solution Professionals did that study for us as well during the following the project. But we also had an expert on site in our maintenance department that could do that as well, and we confirmed all of their numbers on this. So our conservation measures were we needed 2 new generators, so we got 2 new Generac generators that would run a lot of things. We had lighting retrofits, we had water efficiency done, emergency management system upgrades along with it, dual fuel boiler replacement, chiller replacement, condensing unit replacement, multi-zone to VAV conversion, variable speed pumping, energy conservation training, and floating head pressure controls. Now, that may not mean a lot to some people. That's a lot of work and a lot of things to do for $2 million. The one thing that I did bring with me, but I don't have slides for, and I do apologize for that, is in 2013 and 14, we had energy costs of $358,000 one year, $349,000 the other. When the project was over June of 2015, that dropped by $90,000 to $263,000. And in a full year in 2016, we saved $163,000 and giving us a total energy cost of $190,000. And this payback, of course, was over 9.6 years. The county commissioners did supply payments for us upfront so that we didn't have to use strictly our savings to pay for that, and we could use it for the operations. But what we expected was maybe $10,000, maybe $9,000 a month savings, and it ended up being around $13,600 a month on the average savings. So we were pretty happy with that project. We're able then to go ahead and build or redo our surgery department, begin surgery again. We had some things that our guys could do. We had a very talented group of maintenance people who built their own surgery area, redid it all for us, and that was a great thing for us in savings. This $2 million project was well worth it because today, since then we've added on that front part to the hospital, the physician clinic, and we were able to conduct that. And now instead of going on diversion, when our old generator tried to kick in with outdated components and everything and having to send all of our patients to Hayes Med or over to Salina or Great Bend, depending on where it was. Now we can handle that with most of our equipment running with the energy upgrade. So we're very happy with what they did for us. I didn't repeat a lot of things because the previous presenter did a great job of doing that, and there's no reason for you to listen to that again. But we did have public hearings on this, and like I say, the one commissioner that thought this was a scam had to eat crow in the end because he realized that he was wrong and that this is a great way to go for small hospitals. And as hard as it is for small hospitals today to survive, any type of savings like this makes a big difference for all of us. I don't think I've forgotten anything. I do apologize, a little out of sorts because I'm on the road traveling, but I just wanted to make sure that I was able to present this. And I think that we definitely, not that we have anything against energy solution professionals, I think it's a great way to go to work through the FCIP. I think we would have definitely ended up with Jeff's group anyway. But they did such a good job of explaining what they were going to do. At that time, we weren't very aware of the FCIP and realized that they did a great job of explaining the project and where we were. And so this project was paid for quickly. It's working great today, and I definitely would do this again. So I will be happy to entertain any questions when it comes to that point about our project. I just didn't want to duplicate what was already said.
Well, I thought you did excellent, and the savings that you were able to identify versus the cost of the project, I would agree with you. All the things that you were rattling off there, and in terms of what was done, I'm like, wow, for 2 million, that's that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I will say that for those hospitals who are still on, you know what you're up against with particularly in some of the rural areas with trying to cut costs, and like I said at the beginning, energy efficiency cuts across everything. And this is just these programs are a great way to save on both energy and operational costs. So, and I will say that Jeff from Energy Solutions Professionals is on the call also. So, Jeff, thank you for the services that you provided to Russell Regional Hospital and to Harold. Sounds like he's pretty pleased with what you did. So
David,
thank you.
Could I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I forgot
Go ahead.
something. I did want to say that all hospitals across all sizes, as a result of this project, and I think this is important, we did receive national recognition from the American Society of Healthcare Engineering, ASHE, as the #1 hospital for energy savings and greenhouse gas emissions. And we were actually on the radio in Kansas City shortly after this project was over and talked about that recognition. So definitely ESP did a great job for us.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Jeff and ESP for what you did there. We will basically continue on, but we are at the questions and answers and follow-up. If anybody on the call has any questions, I think Tim is still on. Not 100% sure about that, but if it,
Yep, I'm
yes,
here.
he is. Any questions for KCC, Tim, KEP? I don't see any in the questions. I don't see any raised hands. All right. Well, we will conclude the webinar. We thank you for your time. We hope that some of you on the call will look into the process and get this started. We'll say that we did just KCC did just update the ESCO contract. So we're looking forward to a good year of FCIP projects and saving America some energy. So hope to hear from you soon. Have a great rest of the week and take care.
Thanks all.
And thank you, Tim, for your wise words.
Yes, thanks.